Happy Monday, Seattle hockey fans. We, the Seattle Kraken, are on a 4-game winning streak. The streak bookended by wins against Pittsburgh in Seattle and in Pittsburgh. We're going to talk about that Saturday win and how good is Martin Jones for the Seattle Kraken this season. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to the Monday edition of Locked On Kraken. We are your only daily podcast covering the Seattle Kraken. My name is Erica L. Ayala. I'm here in my studio, just called some hockey games for the Premier Hockey Federation opening weekend, but I kept up with the Seattle Kraken, and boy, am I glad that I did. The Seattle Kraken have extended the longest ever winning streak in franchise history to 4 games. You got to start somewhere. And given how treacherous the waters were last season, we'll take this win. I like this because I've talked about it. We've been talking about it since my squad cast with Jess Belmosto, how I want to give this Seattle Kraken team credit, but first I need to see the consistency. I was very harsh, tough love regarding this team coming out of the gate because I knew that they could perform better. We knew that what we were seeing in some of those early losses was not how this Seattle Kraken squad wanted to play, and now I'm starting to see it. You've been hearing from the players. I talked about it. I did a short little video. For those who are following us on YouTube, check out the YouTube Shorts video. Anything that we're posting on social media, we're also going to post there, including we're going to do polls and different community posts. So make sure you're following on YouTube if you're not doing so already. But I've been talking about on the shorts and on the playback rooms. We'll talk about our next playback watch party in a little bit. But this is a team, this is a squad that has super potential, and it was all about if this team could reach the potential. The players themselves are starting to feel that things are progressing nicely. They feel that there's more consistency, there's more accountability, and we absolutely love to see it here on Locked On Kraken. I want to take you, of course, to the post-game analysis by friend of the podcast, Alison Lukan. She, of course, does a phenomenal job covering the Seattle Kraken. We are so lucky to have her as a part of the Seattle Kraken broadcast. Now, the Penguins, we're on a streak, and the Penguins on a skid. In one of my most recent social media posts that you can also find on YouTube Shorts, I said the last time we played a desperate team, Vancouver Canucks, we got bullied around. Didn't want to see that happen in the Berg, and it didn't. You hear, or you can read, if you check out, this is post-game instant analysis by Alison Lukan. I'll have the link in the show notes, but she talks about the desperate and determined Pittsburgh Penguins. Not to mention that if you watched this game, if you were at this game, I know we have, hey, Jeff, I know you were in the Berg. Hope you had a great time. Hope you had a fantastic place to watch Premier Hockey Federation hockey. Anyway, if you were in the Berg, Sidney Crosby, you might have heard of the guy, but had a really good game against the Seattle Kraken, and yet we still get the victory. Why? I think there were 3 players that really stood out to me. Also, a line combination that I want to talk about that was a little bit different than what we've seen in games past. Martin Jones. Is Martin Jones the real deal? I mean, this guy had a fantastic game. Let's take a look. Allison says, by the numbers. According to moneypuck.com, the Penguins generated enough offense to score 3.45 goals. And Martin Jones only allowed 2. He had some really good saves in this game. And that counts as his 6th quality start of the season. So some other things that you need to know about our guy, Martin Jones. Let me come out of this story from Alison Lukan. We'll get into it a little bit for those watching on YouTube. Okay. So sticking with moneypuck.com, Martin Jones. First, let's just give you the basic stats. He's played 10 games, 10 starts, 10 games for us, or 10 games for us. He has a save percentage of .901. He's 6-3-0-1 on the season. He has faced and saved 233 shots total, which again, accounts for that .901 save percentage, and he has 23 goals against, averaging 2.61 goals against per game. Now, his goals saved above expected. Now, he is at 2.3, so that's 23rd overall among goaltenders, according to puckmoney.com. So 2.3 goals saved above expected. Another way of putting that is the expected goals against for Martin Jones are at 25.25. He has allowed only 23 goals. Again, his 6th quality start in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. I do think Martin Jones has been solid. Not to mention that if Martin Jones isn't putting up a solid performance against 6 quality starts out of his 10 games played, we could be in some serious trouble. Drieger, we knew was going to be out when we started the season. Then Philip Grubauer goes out with an injury. I have to admit, Joey Decord had a really great game. Martin Jones has been fantastic for us. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. But essentially a 900 save percentage, I'll take it. Absolutely, I will take it. So I like what he's giving us. You know what he's giving us? He's giving us a chance to win. And the Seattle Kraken have seen multiple goal scorers in this, not only in this winning streak of ours, but throughout the season. So we're getting even scoring. I absolutely love it. But I want to also point out 2 players that I'm very intrigued to see how this continues. One is Yanni Gourde and Brandon Tanev. We actually heard from both of them after the Pittsburgh win. Let's first take you to Brandon Tanev, just talking about the resiliency of this team and, of course, playing in Pittsburgh, which, of course, he knows a thing or two about.
Yeah, obviously, personally, that's great for me, but I think it's more important that the team got all 6 points in this road trip. That's the mindset and the goal we had setting out to this road trip in the 3 games we played, and we beat 3 good teams, and that's the idea we wanted to do. Yeah, obviously we understood we're playing against a good group that's, obviously not playing their best right now, but at the same time, we have to focus on ourselves, and that's what we did tonight. We played a full 60 minutes, and we gutted that one out. I think, it's a 60-minute game. All of a sudden, we're understanding that every line has a role and has a job to do, and we're doing it shift after shift. Our goaltenders were incredible this road trip, and, they were the backbone for us, so we fed off them, and we got some timely goals, and I think as a group we played and understand what we needed to do.
So there you heard from Brandon Tanev. Just a little bit on Tanev. So he's played 13 games. He's got 2 goals and 6 assists for 8 points overall. In the last 4 games, he's got 1 goal. He just got it in Pittsburgh. Talked a little bit about that. He's got 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points overall. Also, Brandon Tanev gets a little bit of hate. I'm going to pull this up for those watching on YouTube, but Rob Rossi, senior writer for The Athletic, the adoration in Pittsburgh for Brandon Tanev, who is basically a footnote in franchise history, parentheses, if that, remains puzzling. He took a weird picture. That's literally his lone contribution to the Penguins. Well, I can't speak for the Penguins, Rob Rossi, but I can certainly speak for the Seattle Kraken. And Brandon Tanev, I talked about this. I think I talked about it on the last show. We definitely talked about it in Playback, which is where we watch our live watch parties. You're invited to our next one. It's going to be, we're watching the Seattle Kraken take on the Nashville Predators, and we're going to have some guests from Locked On Preds join us. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up later on the show. But He took a weird picture. Okay, great, whatever. But also, everywhere Tanev has gone, he's known as a hard worker. He's a fun guy, a ball of energy, and we're seeing that transpire. Now, I love that Tanev has been getting involved. I do think that he's working his way back to his full magical high energy self after coming back from an injury, but he has been doing hustle plays, finding the 50-50 battles, winning those battles, and really contributing offensively. Again, his stat line, he has 6 assists, and I love that for him in his 13 games played. There are a few other players that I think also, so we talked about Jones, you heard from Tanev, and I talked about Tanev, but coming up next, I also want to talk about Yanni Gourde, and then Yanni Gourde and Brandon Tanev with this new combination of Morgan Geekie. Talk about an impact line. We're going to talk about that and more coming up on Locked On Kraken. Now, though, I want to tell you about one of our sponsors here. And this episode is brought to you by Simply Safe. If you thought about securing your home with home security but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Kraken listeners can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, so you are not going to want to miss it. Here's why people say they love Simply Safe. You are getting an organization that has been named the best home security system this year, 2022, by U.S. News and World Report. And not just this year, but that makes 3 years in a row that U.S. News and World Report has named Simply Safe the best home security system of the year. In an emergency, there are 24/7 professional monitoring agents that use Fast Protect, trademarked technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get a priority response. That is so cool. I love how they're using technology there. So don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that we here recommend. You can get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL. This is their biggest discount of the year, so do not wait. That's simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Thanks as always, Seattle hockey fans, for making Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Erica L. Ayala. And now that you've listened to us, or you are listening to us, be ready to queue up next Game to Game. That is the National Hockey League's coverage across Locked On NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the Men's National Hockey League with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, we're going to continue on. We are chugging along. We're feeling good, riding high on a 4-game win streak, the longest in Seattle Kraken history. As I mentioned earlier on the show, it's bookended by wins against Pittsburgh, first at Climate Pledge Arena, then at PP&G Paints Arena in Pittsburgh. So the Seattle Kraken are doing a bunch of stuff right. So where do we stand in the standings? When we look at the Pacific Division, the Seattle Kraken have now leapfrogged to that #2 spot behind, our nemesis, or at least there's people apparently hating on me from Vegas Golden Knights podcasts, whatever. Anyway, we are right behind Vegas. Las Vegas has 11 wins, 2 losses for 22 points. We have 16 points. So we have some work to do if we want to catch up with them. But we heard from Brandon Tanev. We'll hear from some other players. Getting these points on the road trip is critically important for the Seattle Kraken. They knew they wanted to rake up as they hit the road, and that's exactly what they did. So the Seattle Kraken are above 500. I told you In the off season, that was my goal for this team, to be 500 or better, and then I got a little spooked. I was like, whoa, is being at 500 or better, can we do that? And so I said, all right, let's be 500 at home. We're not 500 at home. So we got to put in some work, and we'll have an opportunity to do that. But we are above 500 at a 615 win percentage. I love that for us, and we're going to keep it going. So that's in the Pacific Division. We are second overall in the Pacific Division. So shame on me when we did our Twitter Spaces, and I said, I don't know if this team is necessarily going to make it as a playoff team. I mean, if we continue on with what we're doing, it could happen. I'm saying that in my Angels in the Outfield voice. It could happen, but they're playing well. But okay, second in the division, third in the Western Conference, baby. Only Vegas and Dallas are better than the Seattle Kraken right now. I freaking love to see this. And so what are we looking like league-wide? Well, I'll freaking tell you. League-wide, the Seattle Kraken are a top 10 team right now. That's right. We're moving on up. Vegas, Boston, New Jersey. Hello, who saw that? Carolina, Dallas, and then us, baby, the Seattle Kraken. So we're moving on up in the standings, and I'm very excited to see what this is going to mean for us. I mentioned that we are going to be doing a watch party. We're going to be doing that tomorrow night because the Seattle Kraken are hosting the Nashville Predators. We're hosting the Nashville Predators, and then look who we have next. We've got the Predators. They've been having a difficult time, and tomorrow on Locked On Kraken, you'll hear a squad cast as Nick and Ann join me from Locked On Preds. We talk about this matchup. Then we get the Minnesota Wild. Again, Martin Jones got his first shutout his first shutout for the Seattle Kraken as a member of the Seattle Kraken against the Minnesota Wild. That was a 4-0 win. You can see earlier in the month. Then we have the Winnipeg Jets, the New York Rangers, and the LA Kings, San Jose Sharks before we head over to Vegas. So circle the calendar, folks. The 25th is going to be a big one, but we're going to do a watch party for the Nashville Predators. We're going to have some fun with Locked On Preds in the next 2 days or the next day. We're going to have some fun with Locked On Predators tomorrow, not just on the squad cast, but we're also going to do the watch party on playback with them. So if you want to join us, have some fun laughs. Nick and Ann are amazing. They do a great job covering the Predators, but they're also hilarious. So we hope you join us. But yeah, we're going to definitely do some more squad casting and some more watch parties. So you're not going to want to miss that. But coming up next on Locked On Kraken, you're going to hear from Yanni Gourde. And then I'm going to break down some of Yanni's numbers, and we're going to talk about some line changes that have happened. Jared McCann seems to be day-to-day. He didn't suit up again. That did mean that Shane Wright got put into the roster. But who was playing with Yanni Gourde and Brandon Tanev? Oh, it's Morgan Geekie, who's been on a tear. We're going to hear from Yanni Gourde and talk about his numbers. We're going to take a look at where Morgan Geekie has been putting in time for the Seattle Kraken. And then we'll give you everything that you need to know for tomorrow's episode and squadcast. And of course, tomorrow's watch party. That's coming up on Locked on Kraken. We like to thank you as always for listening to Locked on Kraken. We appreciate you so much. I have some pretty cool things that we're doing in the community tab over on YouTube. So if this has been enjoyable for you, make sure you subscribe to Locked on Kraken, certainly on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. But now that you've made Locked on Kraken your first listen of the day, once we wrap this after talking about Yanni Gourde and talking about Morgan Geekie and how he's been utilized, I want you to listen to Locked on Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and of course, the take of the day. That is available on the Odyssey app, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So get ready. You'll have a really great listen after you listen to Locked on Kraken. Okay, I told you we're going to hear from Yanni Gourde. He talked after the Seattle Kraken win in Pittsburgh.
We're playing as a team, and really everybody's contributing, and it's really fun to play that way. All four lines, all 4D. Jonesy's been unbelievable in net, so it's been really team wins since this beginning of the year. He defended pretty well. I think, like I said, Jonesy had an incredible night again. There was some big blocks in front of him as well. Susie played an amazing game tonight again. Like I said, our decor has been great, and we got to keep this going.
All right, you heard from Yanni. Again, I've been talking about it. This Seattle Kraken team, the players know that they're starting to really build upon the foundation, the building blocks of how this team wants to play. They're now being able to execute that at will. It was not consistent to start off the season, that's for sure. And I was pretty ticked off about it, as some of you I know remember. And listen, I read the comments and I try to respond as much as possible. But if you want this to be a rainbow and butterflies podcast, listen, I don't know if you know this about me. For longtime listeners, I know you absolutely know this, but I'm a New Yorker, baby. I'm a New Yorker. We keep it 100%. There's always things that you can glean, but after a while, like last season, after a while, if you keep trying to glean out the same positives, or you keep trying to glean out the same potential, but you're not meeting the potential, you have to be real about it. There's this philosophy of manifesting things is an amazing thing. But what's more important is when you have a manifestation that you want to reach and attain, then you keep it real about where you are with that. What does it feel like when I do this? What does it feel like when I'm not doing this? What are the things that I can impact? And I think the Seattle Kraken needed a wake-up call early in the season. And, I'm not the only podcaster that was keeping it 100%, and they fixed it. You know why we can have those conversations? Because they have the potential to be better than what they showed, and they're starting to show it now. So I loved what Yanni Gourde said. Let's talk, though, a little bit about Yanni Gourde. On the season, he's played in 12 games, 2 goals, 5 assists for 7 points overall. In the last 4 games, he has 2 goals and 4 assists. So 5 of his 7 points have come during the Seattle Kraken winning streak. I say Matty Beniers makes us better, and I believe he does. Now listen. Matty Beniers did score a goal in Pittsburgh, but unfortunately it was against Martin Jones. Own goals are not really a thing in hockey, although I personally think they should be. But everyone makes mistakes. I hated that for the kid on his 20th birthday. We wished him a happy birthday on social media, but we'll say it here. Happy birthday, Matty Beniers. Shake that one off, kid. We know you're going to be great. Anyway, back to Yanni Gourde. He's about 17 minutes of time on ice per game. And Yanni Gourde is starting to get things together. I love this for Yanni Gourde. I know a lot of people think that he should be the next captain of the Seattle Kraken. I think that's an okay pick. I'm not like all in on Yanni Gourde as our next captain like some people, and it's fine. And it's absolutely fine. But getting the performance that we're seeing from Yanni Gourde really, really excites me. But I want to talk about Yanni Gourde and Brandon Tanev and some of the line combos that we've been seeing. So I mentioned, and we talked about it last week. I've talked about it on some of the shorts. Again, you can find those on the YouTube page and on social media. Locked On Kraken has an Instagram page. You can also find my recaps on TikTok at Black Rosie Media. But we've been seeing Geekie with Tanev and Gourde. So Ryan Donato. So the lines have been switching up. And to kind of describe and explain this a little bit, let's head over to Natural Stat Trick because they break all of this down. I'll make this a little bit bigger for you as we talk about it. I'm not worried about the numbers so much. I just want you to see the line combinations that we've been seeing here. So if you can see, we have Jaden Schwartz, Matty Beniers, Jordan Eberle. They have the most time on ice, on average per game for the Seattle Kraken. Next up is Andre Burakovsky, Alex Wenberg, and Oliver Bjorkstrand. But then you see the lines start changing here. Now, the line that we usually see at the beginning of the game is Tanev, Gourde, and Wright, and then Donato, Geekie, and Sprong. That's what we've been seeing with Jared McCann out of the lineup. But you'll see that there is another combination here that I want to talk about, and that's Tanev, Geekie, and Gourde. Brandon Tanev, Morgan Geekie, and Yanni Gourde. So I've been telling you, consistency that we're getting from Brandon Tanev. Love to see it. In the last 4 games, I just talked about it. 5 of his 7 points came in the last 4 games, him being Yanni Gourde, building that consistency. And who are they getting more ice time with than Morgan Geekie? I like this. Geekie was on that 4th line, so had been working with Donato and Sprong, as you can see there, but also Geekie now getting time with Tanev and Gourde. I like this. I like this a lot for Seattle. And since we're talking about that line, I've already talked to you about Brandon Tanev. I've already talked to you about Yanni Gourde, and you heard from him. It's time to talk about Morgan Geekie. Now, I was a little bit of a hater. I'm going to keep it real. I'll keep it 100%. I was not high on Morgan Geekie, especially comparative to my boy Ryan Donato, who actually had less time on ice than Shane Wright in Pittsburgh. But maybe we'll talk about that on another show. But Morgan Geekie is getting it done. 10 games played, 4 goals and 3 assists for 7 points in 10 games. How's he doing during the winning streak? Oh, no big deal. He's got 3 goals and 2 assists. 5 of his 7 points, just like Yanni Gourde. 5 of Morgan Geekie's 7 points have come during the Seattle Kraken winning streak. I love that. I love that. And yeah, I'm not a part of the Geek Squad or the Geeky Squad. I don't know about out-pizzaing the hut or whatever, but I do like what Morgan Geekie is doing for the Seattle Kraken. I love this. And this combination of Tanev, Geekie, and Gourde, give me more, as the amazing Britney Spears once sang. Reverbed and highly produced. But the point is, give me more of that. Give me more of that. And I hope we see more of it. I don't know what this means, mostly for Shane Wright, maybe even Ryan Donato, if I'm being honest. When Jared McCann comes back into the lineup, we know Yanni Gourde can play center. He can play on that wing. I think you got to keep Tanev, Geekie, and Gourde together. So where does Jared McCann fit in? Where does Donato fit in? Where does Shane Wright fit in? Lots of questions, but an embarrassment of riches will take it. Another player that I'm going to be watching as we get ready for tomorrow's game. Again, we're going to have a squad cast. We've already recorded it. It's in the can. You'll hear from Nick and Ann from Locked On Predators tomorrow. Super excited for that. Another player that I want to see really come through is Oliver Bjorkstrand. Now, he's sneaky. He's a sneaky forward. We had Alison Lukan on the show, and that's what she told us about Bjorkstrand, and she's been absolutely right. That being said, I'd like to see all of his sneaky, covert recon style of hockey. I'd like to see it pay off for him and obviously for the Seattle Kraken on the scoreboard. Do we need him to score right now? Maybe not necessarily, but we talked about his potential with Jay. Can he be a 30 goal scorer? Can he, get those points up for us? And I think the answer is yes. So let's start seeing some of it. Also, congratulations, Jay got engaged. We love that. Jay Foster of Locked On Blue Jackets, the host there. So there you have it. I am looking out for that Gourde, Geekie, and Tanev line come tomorrow against the Predators. I also want to see Oliver Bjorkstrand just open things up. And tomorrow on Locked On Kraken, with our squad cast with Locked On Predators, you'll hear who we got in free agency that the Predators, or at least Locked On Predators show, really wanted. Oh, it's a good one. We have a squad cast and we have a watch party on playback. Anytime you see this graphic with Bowie waving the Seattle S flag with the light blue Seattle crest on a dark blue flag, that means we're having a watch party. It's going to be on playback. You can use the link playback.tv/Black Rosie Media, the numeral 1. And of course, you can find all of that information in the show notes. Come watch the game live with us. I love watching the live watch parties with other fans, especially when I'm on a different time zone than the Seattle Kraken. It helps me stay awake. I know we've got some West Coast folks, obviously, that listen to the show. Makes a lot of sense. The Seattle Kraken are in the Pacific Northwest, but we also have a lot of East Coasters who have adopted the Seattle Kraken as their men's hockey team. So let's help each other stay awake. We're going to have good times, get off some amazing jokes, and just real talk about the Seattle Kraken on all of the things happening in hockey. There's some not so great things happening in hockey. There are also some amazing people in hockey trying to change it. We dabble. We do a little bit of a dabbly-do and all of that. And the Locked On Predators hosts should be joining, at least for a time, on tomorrow's watch party. That's our show, folks. It's been a good one. I'm going to get out of here. I'm still at the studio where I called my Premier Hockey Federation games. I'll talk a little bit more about that maybe next week, because the Premier Hockey Federation, PHF, will have the weekend off. But we'll talk this week about the rivalry series coming to Climate Pledge Arena, women's hockey at the international level. You can watch right in Seattle at Climate Pledge Arena, CPA. If you're in the area, you're not going to want to miss it. Until then, folks, I'm your host, Erica L. Ayala, reminding you to be kind. Please be kind to yourself and to each other. Hold fast, stay true, and come tomorrow, we say loud and proud, let's go Kraken.